Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Drop In CEO podcast. I'm Deb Coviello, your host, and I'm grateful that you've chosen us because we want to be that go to resource for C suite leaders to help them navigate their opportunities and challenges with confidence. And this week, it is my sincere pleasure to welcome onto the show Joe Bockerstette, who is the managing partner of a business enterprise mapping professional service firm delivering transformative workflow improvement. And he has more than 30 years experience as a CEO, business consultant, and private equity angel investor. He has many accomplishments for which he's going to share his backstory. But Joe, I just want to say thank you so much for dropping in.
Deb, thank you as well. I appreciate being here. Looking forward to it.
And I am as well. So, for my listeners, when Joe and I got to know each other a little bit, I was very excited to learn about his background. There is a bit of an intersection between his work, process improvements, being a C suite leader, and helping small and medium sized businesses be able to go through those transformative changes. So, I'm so eager to learn about his work. But, Joe, I'm going to pass it back to you a bit so you can share a little bit about your backstory.
Yeah, thank you. I went to school, University of Cincinnati, undergrad in engineering with an MBA from Xavier. Went straight into consulting out of school, PricewaterhouseCoopers. I was there, I don't know, 10 or 12 years. And my area of expertise was just in time. This was pre-lean. And I was trained by one of the early gurus in the just in time area. Learned to apply the technologies to businesses far beyond automotive, which is where it began. And left there in the early 90s, moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana, ran small businesses for about 10 years, sold out that firm and started an angel investing fund, Main Street Venture Fund, which I ran for about 5 years in Indiana, and then moved out to Phoenix, Arizona to retire, enjoy the lifestyle a bit. We had a school system for my youngest daughter that we wanted her to attend. And then in 2013, I joined Business Enterprise Mapping as their managing partner and have had the really pleasure and privilege of seeing a very wide variety of businesses over the years. Our firm maps very large workflows, department level workflows, identifies what we call red clouds, are the problems and opportunities preventing the client from achieving their goals, and helping client craft and implement change to make a difference.
And that was so succinct. Before we got on here, we also talked about how you got out to Arizona, how wonderful the weather is. I also live in Cincinnati, so we were talking a little bit about really enjoying this large, small Midwest town. But let's just go in. How did you go from engineering to all the way into angel investing? Like, what's the linkage between your early
Yeah,
education? Because sometimes we define ourselves by what we studied, but you've obviously had a vast and diverse career. So talk to me about those changes.
right. So I was really lucky early on to know what I wanted my career path to be. So when I went to college, I knew I wanted to be a consultant, a
Okay.
business consultant, and I knew the purpose of being a business consultant is I wanted to own and run my own businesses. And I figured that the best way to learn how to run a business was to first become a professional consultant. So at PwC, I went from entry level to partner over those 10 or 12 years, got a tremendous amount of learning with a wide variety of companies. Left because of lifestyle and travel and family reasons. And interestingly, I took over a business when I left that was about, I think, 25 million at the time, and immediately learned I really didn't know that much about business, let me tell you. So,
Mm.
running a small business was a far different set of experiences than consulting for a professional firm. And in process of running that small business, I learned how to buy and sell companies. We bought a few, sold a few, and that really led me to angel investing. When I sold out at that point, I wanted to learn how to invest and become a minority owner in businesses, which I had not done previously, and how to sort of influence and manage from a non-control position. And that became a really interesting set of learnings. What makes a startup successful? What doesn't? When an entrepreneur approaches you for money, what do we need to know to be successful? And And so that was a very, very good experience as well. And then once I got out here in Phoenix, it became more of a lifestyle. I found this business enterprise mapping, which was a fantastic business,
Mhm.
and immediately took to the methodology, the Paragon method that we use here. And it's just been a really enjoyable fit for me for the last, what now, 12 or 13 years.
So I can't wait to get into the topic of angel investing as well as, the company that you work for now to, help businesses with their business processes. But I'm just curious because again, this is just you and me talking.
Mhm,
I worked in corporate and in businesses, and then later worked as a consultant and had
mhm,
to learn lumps and bumps. And then there are people, similar like my son, also pretty much went right into consulting
mhm.
and worked in businesses. So, I mean, what are the pros and cons of going straight into consulting where you may not
Right,
have the business or corporate experience versus those that are in business have some experience, but then going into consulting is a whole new
right.
animal? I'm just curious about your thoughts in that area.
So I would say the advantage to going into consulting earlier is that you start from the bottom and work your way up. So I have mapped process flows on shop floors more than I can count. I've done work studies with departments. Like I was at the very, very bottom of an entry level totem pole. So you really learn the foundational elements of consulting from the bottom up. That it greatly informs your abilities later. Like now, I'll take data and craft it into recommendations and themes and findings versus early on, I generated that data. I will also say that having that foundational knowledge is immeasurably useful in running a business, right? With the consulting skills I've gotten over the years, I can kind of go anywhere and figure things out pretty quickly, right? When you go into business first and then go into consulting, it's a different form of skills development, right? And if you sort of go to like an executive level in business and then shift over to consulting, it can be a little disconcerting and all that detail that's got to be turned into meaning, right? And all of that frontline collection that's got to be sorted through to make a difference,
Mm.
right? And so you're fundamentally self-sufficient growing up as a consultant, if you will, that you're able to use those skills anywhere you go.
Okay, I was just curious about that because, I've heard different things. If you go straight into consulting, you may not necessarily have this very specific business experience. So, how can you advise? On the
Right.
other hand, maybe you're helping and providing capacity. And then I'll tell
Yeah.
you, when I went into consulting, learning how to do business development and putting out
Yes,
a brand and marketing yourself became skills that I had to develop because the work was always there. I just had to do the work and execute and get the results. So, both paths have their advantages and
they do.
disadvantages.
They do.
Um, Very curious though about the angel investing because
Hmm.
in my travels, usually the companies I drop into are at least 25 people,
Hmm.
founder or second generation founder, sometimes more well established. They have the means to be able to bring in consultants or fractional leaders, but
Right.
sometimes they have challenges, not just with the technical work, but growth and how to invest. So I'm curious about when we think about angel investing, because you never know, I may come across somebody that says, I can't get to the next level because of this. Tell me a little bit about that process and when should leaders of organizations start thinking about this may be a good opportunity versus, oh, I couldn't raise the funds myself. I just want you to talk me through this a little bit.
Yeah. So angel investing is a body of knowledge that's sort of unique in its own category, if you will. So angels come between personal investment, friends and family, and prior to professionals, right? Although more and more frequently, angels are moving into groups that are more professional, right? And so angel entrepreneurs tend to approach angel groups or angel investors with an inadequate business case at that point, right?
Okay.
In general, angels are looking for revenue at this point, and so when I wrote the book on attracting an angel, it was really about making it easy for entrepreneurs to understand what they need to do in order to be successful in attracting angel money. Angel money is at risk for sure. It's at greater risk than a professional investor or venture or private equity that comes behind. And so, as an angel investor, you're looking to mitigate that risk with a series of sort of characteristics of that organization that might make you feel more secure in putting your money out there. Having said that, of all the angel investments I did, I have done maybe 10% paid off.
Mhm.
And fortunately, those 10% outweigh the investments in the others. And that's the way it goes.
Just the way it goes. Because I want to highlight and I want to make sure I've got the full title of the book in case anybody out there, whether you're thinking of striking out on your own, you got this great idea. The title of your book, Attracting an Angel: How to Get Money from Business Angels and Why Most Entrepreneurs Don't. Why do they not approach angel investors?
Well, most entrepreneurs don't get money because they have an adequate business case built. That's the simple answer to that question.
Okay.
They are overvaluing what they bring to the table and undervaluing what it's going to take for an angel to put that risk capital out on the potential upside.
Mm. Okay, good to know. So I know I know some people potentially out there that could leverage
Yeah,
those insights. So now talk to me about the work that you're doing now. Describe a little bit about
yeah.
the type of consultancy you do now, but not just what you do, but maybe an example of how
Mhm.
you've been able to transform or change an organization in the value that they realize.
Yeah. So as I said at the beginning, business enterprise mapping maps large swaths of workflow really quickly, very effectively, very efficiently. Uh, our foundation is built on a quote, an old quote from Cincinnati, actually. Every organization is perfectly designed to get the results it gets, right? And that's out of a book called Designing Organizations for High Performance, written by David Hanna from Procter and Gamble, actually. And what I love about that quote is two elements to it. Number one, that quote implies that if you are not performing to your expectations or your intentions, there are reasons behind that lack of performance that you can understand and address,
Mm,
right? We
okay.
call those red clouds. Red clouds are the problems and opportunities preventing you from achieving your intention, your desired intention, right? And so, in assessing a business model at an organization, the question is, what results are you getting that you are dissatisfied with? And then let's figure out why you're getting those results, right? Then the second aspect to that question is, if there are reasons behind my unintended results, then it is my responsibility to implement an organization change that gets me those desired results. So, on the one hand, it's comforting that there are reasons, cause and effect relationships behind those inadequate results. But secondarily, now that I understand those reasons, it's my job to fix it, right? And our organization is built around the model of helping you understand why you're not getting the performance you desire, crafting a plan to address those shortfalls, and then helping you implement those changes.
How much of that change management is the tactical execution versus the leadership persona and
Both. Great
mindset?
question. Great
Okay,
question, right?
talk to me about both.
So,
How do you bring them through
yeah,
both work
yeah.
streams?
So the business model design that I just described is really a strategic question, right? Like, how are we going to redesign our piece of this business to get the results we want? An organization is generally comprised of maybe 100 processes: order entry, prospecting, contracts, purchase orders, hiring, on and on and on, right? And so the question is, how can I understand what's taking place in that? And then what am I going to do about it? Well, our methodology begins with engaging your people in that understanding. So the strategic aspect is, what are we going to do differently organizationally? The change aspect is, we facilitate team meetings with your employees in the room, mapping these processes out real time while we're facilitating. So like on the screen here, we would have our tool up and our templates, and we would be facilitating the room. How do we do order entry at your company? We'd be mapping it real time, and along the way, we're starting that change endeavor of an employee going from sort of indifference, frustration, lack of understanding, it's too overwhelming, we've always done it that way, to, aha, now I understand why I'm frustrated. Now I understand why it's not performing. Now there's something we can do to fix it. And in those red clouds, just take order entry. An order entry process might have 25 to 30 tasks in it, just to pick a kind of a standard number. Of those 30 tasks, it's going to have probably 40 red clouds. So red clouds are the problems preventing that order entry process from achieving its intention, its goals. Of those 40 red clouds, about 20 are going to be quick wins. Quick wins are red clouds that the process people can solve themselves without leadership approval or budget. It's the dumb, low hanging fruit, right? So, in that exercise of assessing and diagnosing the organization's workflow, you're also beginning a change management process of engaging the people to go fix these problems themselves. Many of them they can fix on the front lines, and then other stuff bubbles up to leadership that are more systemic that have to be addressed at the leadership level.
Yeah. So we probably don't need my questions because this conversation is taking me in all different directions to help me
Okay.
understand. So just, I want to step back first. Red clouds. You,
Mhm.
and I understand the context of it, but where did that expression come from? It's not familiar to me.
The BEM, it's a BEM term, a
Okay.
business enterprise mapping term. So we have a lot. Our language is a little bit like a foreign language, but not a complicated. And
Okay.
we use business systems, business processes, red clouds.
Because I heard red
Uh,
flags, but not red
yeah,
clouds. I just
right.
didn't understand
Customer
where that came
value
from.
model is a
Hmm.
very ubiquitous term in our methodology. So we have a series of terms. So fundamentally, we'll identify the architecture of a department, let's call it sales, which would be, we would
Hmm.
call it a sales business system. We'll identify the architecture of that system, which is probably somewhere between 10 and 15 business processes. We'll then map each of those business processes, identify the red clouds that go along with them, and then we'll look at that entire system of flow in total as a group. Like we'll have posters on walls and string and tape and scissors, and we'll be troubleshooting the overall flow, which is where you find most of the deficiencies, the dropped balls, the quality problems, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's a extremely engaging early involvement, very fun. Folks start off sort of overwhelmed and then they get it over time and you get
Yeah.
on a roll and then one just leads to the next, leads to the next.
So again, lots of questions here. I'm so
Mhm.
glad we're having this. And there is a person that I know who was in my ecosystem very early on when I was consulting. They too, a product of PwC and
Mhm.
went into their own business. I was a junior consultant and we were doing all kinds of process mapping. Now, the interesting thing, because I want to come back to then the change management perspective,
Mhm.
absolutely. When people can see their defunct processes or non value added activities on the wall, they themselves become quick
Right.
adopters. The challenge sometimes is at the leadership level because they may not realize how complex the monster has become. But I will tell you just a quick story, but then I want to revert back to your
Mhm.
experience. So I had this one leader come into the room and we debriefed them. All around the room was all this butcher paper and post-it notes
Right.
and the whole messy mess. And when we debriefed this leader, she started by saying, "I'm sorry." And she was looking at her people, said, "I am so sorry that you have to work in this environment." And with that, the intent was she
Mhm.
was then going to commit to whatever low hanging fruit, as well as IT or infrastructure resources to be able to remove the non value added activity. So that's an example of where I have seen somebody get it. But coming back
Right.
to your experiences, while the people
Mhm.
may see the value of the change, have you experienced leaders that start putting up roadblocks, barriers, or excuses for which then you have to manage the leader to be able to achieve a certain outcome? Tell me more about that.
You do. So let me start by saying from a work perspective. Now, all value is delivered through work in any organization, right? That's our value delivered to our customers is always delivered through the work itself that creates that value, right? The leader's primary responsibility in their role is to make it easy to do the right thing, right?
Yes.
If the leader makes it easy to do the right thing, everything else will fall into place. The core fundamental problem from which all difficulty lies is in that question right there. Do you make it easy to do the right thing? Right now, in a change management perspective, right, we're designing, our methodology is designed to put problems at the layers where they can be solved, right? Most organizations' problems all funnel up to the top, and the leader's got a portfolio that's overwhelming, right? Like, I can't possibly deal with it all. Our methodology is designed to invert that funnel to move problems down as much as we can nearest to the source to get more people solving problems and fixing things, right? That's where red clouds, quick wins, that's where that comes in. Now, having said that, as you work through the what are we going to do next, there is always a portfolio of opportunities that lie on the front lines, that maybe lie at the department head, that are bigger than department head. And we use a planning process called GMOST with these projects: goals, metrics, opportunities, strategies, and tactics, where this work gets bubbled up to the C suite to be fed into strategy, to be fed into decisions that do require money, time, cost, and effort, right? It's not all easy, but it is all understandable with decisions to be made about how we're going to go about fixing this environment. Believe me, though, there's plenty of low hanging fruit everywhere we go that makes things better right away.
But by the time you actually then have a client engagement, they're already feeling the pain. If they don't make any
Right,
changes, they're going to potentially lose business. So they're already coming in with, I need you. I need you to help me
right,
figure out all of the tactical work and what is it that we need to do to change as a business. So you don't have to spend a lot of time trying to alter or influence the mindset of a leader like, hey, this is going to take money. And they start putting up reasons and all that
right.
stuff. They're already ready to say, okay, let's just do that, right? You don't usually have barriers at the leadership level.
So in general, our client is a department head who's like throwing their arms up, like, this isn't
Okay.
working. I've got money. I've got a painful problem I don't know how to solve. I think the solution's in the work itself. It's complicated. It's intimidating. It's wasteful. I got people doing the same things different ways. I'm unhappy with my results from my department, and I've got money allocated. Go figure out what I need to do to fix it. So they then turn to typically some sort of practitioner who goes to the market to try to find solutions, right? Much like
Mhm.
people might be hiring you. And we are great choices when we don't know what to do with this mess of a workflow. And so, to your point, when we get contacted, the problem has already been acknowledged by the client, right? And they're just looking for the best tool, if you will, to help them solve the problem. And we're able to do it sort of better, faster, which ends up costing them less money. And because our methodology is now 31 years old, and we've been doing the same thing the same way for 30 years. So we're really good at doing that.
So one of the things when I think about the work that you do is, yes, we want to make it better, faster, cheaper,
Mm-hmm.
safer. Again, I'm a manufacturing operational excellence person, but sometimes that goes to a fault. Like we're chasing results. Okay, how are we going to get this
Right.
efficiency? I need to get this certain amount of market share. Committed to the customers. We're going to turn around this or deliver
Mm-hmm.
on this type of service performance. I'm just curious from your experience that it's not just about getting the results, but ultimately,
Right.
in my world, it's peace of mind knowing
Mm-hmm.
my people have all the tools they need. I've removed the barriers. I have a sense of calm. I am able to now go out and visit more customers, develop strategic partners. Just talk to me a
Right.
little bit about maybe an
Yeah.
example, if you could, where not only did they do the work, but they got to a place of peace of mind. The business
Yeah.
transformed, but they realized unrealized gains that they never anticipated.
Yeah. So to get from here to there, so you've heard this before. A bad system will beat a good person, right? And superheroes can't overcome bad process, right?
Yeah.
Because they get burned out, right? It's too
Yeah.
hard
Hmm.
over time, right? And so what you're out to do is design a system of standard repetitive work that people can plug into and do their jobs more easily,
Yeah.
right? Getting from here to there is intellectually a difficult road. People have to think hard. Like the beginning of these projects, it's like my brain's exhausted. I have to think about this more than I ever have before, right? I'm producing a deliverable. Does that party who receives that deliverable actually want what I produce, or do they want it in the way I produce it? So there's all of this thought analysis on the front end that then gets turned into simpler work on the back end, right? By better defining what exactly my purpose is, what I'm trying to accomplish, what's the best way to accomplish it, then it's easy to implement a process and a system that makes it easy to do the right thing. But
Mhm.
what happens is stuff grows organically, business is up, I add people, I acquire a new division, they don't quite fit with me, they do it differently, and before you know, you've got this hodgepodge of organization model that doesn't sync with a better outcome.
Mm. And so, what's a picture or an example of one of these leaders getting to peace of mind? And they said, Joe, just
Yeah.
thank you. Because of this work we've done, not only do we realize what we set out to do, but I'm also realizing this.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example of a marketing firm from a couple of years ago. I think there are about 100 people, maybe something in that range. And we were actually a client of theirs, and we could see the shortfalls, right? They had a less than stellar customer rating. Let's say 60 something percent. I don't remember. They were tough on boarding. It didn't go smoothly with clients, right? And they were preparing to sell. And so we mapped their operation system. So basically, project management delivery. They signed a contract with the client, then they had to go deliver, fulfill that contract to the client's request. And in doing so, we had to define exactly what clients wanted in the deliverables, exactly what presentations need to include, exactly how much communication took place and what was in it, exactly how they were going to deliver that work internally, right? So this is this series of constructs between what's the desired deliverable, what's the series of work or tasks that's going to create that deliverable, how are we going to link that to other deliverables to ultimately delight that end customer, that end
Yeah.
client, right? Satisfaction went up to 90 something percent. The place chilled out, if you will, it leveled out into falling into routines of producing that material, and the owner sold out for a dramatically better price. So it was a happy ending for all.
Oh, that's always good to hear because I talk about leaders need to stop chasing results because you can get the results, shareholders are all happy, high five at the end of the day. But sometimes if you don't have, you've really truly addressed the root cause of those systemic issues, which we're going to go into, the top reasons for broken processes.
Right.
Sometimes you fall off from being able to get those results. You push the people. Ultimately, you don't get peace of mind because you're on this cyclic thing because you never really got to the root cause. So thank you for that example. But as I was navigating the website, I love all the infographics that you have on your website. And then I came up, and this was like music to my soul. It says the top reasons for broken processes. I'll just read a couple of them.
Mhm.
Okay, and I did not bring my glasses. I'm trying to read this, but suppliers not understood, cumbersome to execute. So you talk about making it easy for
Right.
people to do the job, not linked to the strategy, processes not followed or understood,
Mhm.
or even owned or defined. I
Right.
mean, these are wonderful, but I'm just curious of all of these. What are the one or two that you find are systemic in all organizations?
Yeah, so I'll talk about a couple of things. So an undefined process is probably the most common shortfall in process management, process execution, right? It is really common to see different people doing the same process different ways, right? Depending on who's at the desk or who's doing the job. If I have 10 people in a department, I don't have a common way of executing that work. Undefined deliverables are like ubiquitous everywhere you go. Who exactly is the customer of what I'm producing? What exactly do they want from
Yeah.
me? What am I providing? What are the gaps and what is the red clouds that come out of that? Like undefined processes rule the world in business. It's huge. Unmanaged data. I can't tell you how many times I see data going in the front end of a system and inadequately being pushed all the way through until it crashes and burns on the back end, right? Order management to invoicing is a great example. I collect data when I sign a customer up. I create a customer order. That order flows through the system. I ship it. I go to bill it, and lo and behold, I got bad data, and it sits in receivables for 6 months. Very, very common, right?
So I could speak to that. It's very interesting. So again, in my world, and you've been so wonderful with all of your sharing your knowledge and all, but on in my world recently, helping a company to get their food safety certification, and along with You have to have
Yeah.
certain business processes as well as those that protect the supply chain, the food. Well, one of our exercises, pressure testing, is to do a mock recall to see for
Hmm.
various scenarios if a customer complains about an issue, can you trace it back to the source of supply? Or if a
Right.
supplier communicates an issue, you need to understand how many customers are impacted. Well,
Hmm.
it stressed the team out, but revealed where we had data gaps. The processes weren't defined as to what data fields needed to be collected,
Exactly.
nor the
Right.
platforms to be able to easily triage the information and then
Hmm.
spend most of your time on containment. We wasted 4 hours, never fully could identify. And then, unfortunately, then the breadth of the recall or issue becomes very big because you can't bookend the particular thing. So they learned very
Right.
quickly where data integrity was really important, and they're actively working to shore up those gaps so that we don't have so much waste and we can protect the customer in an effective way. Yeah, it's
So that little system or series of processes was perfectly designed to get the results it gets, right? Which turned out to be inadequate to their needs. So that sends you back into a problem solving loop of why, right? And there's a series of red clouds that are, I won't say easy to diagnose, but certainly diagnosable that says, okay, we have to fix these red clouds in order to create an outcome, a result that we are happy with.
so as we dug into a little bit deeper, there was a couple things. One is, what were the conditions? Well, we didn't have the systems in place to assure a steady flow of
Mm-hmm.
data in going to data out so we could quickly trace. But then it goes to an
Yeah.
even higher level thing from a management practice perspective of, did we even allocate resources to be able to look at our end-to-end processes, such as the work you do, to
Mm-hmm.
define the process, define roles and responsibilities, checks, points, et cetera. So it even went higher. Now, thankfully, we've had new leadership and bring it brought in that absolutely understands the criticality of not just being able to
Mm-hmm.
deal with an issue, but also for billing, for just being a viable business. And
Right.
ultimately, from there, you can make further improvements. So I absolutely see where your work is so applicable.
Yeah.
So,
So just
yeah.
I'll give you a quick. So if you're studying, for instance, a sales system, you're going to find maybe 300 red clouds in the whole system.
Wow.
So of those 300 red clouds, 150 are going to be quick wins. And those 300 red clouds are going to go down to about 10 to 12 themes, right? So you can take
Yeah.
those out for leadership. Like a theme might be an inadequate CRM, just to pick an easy example. And a quick win might be I need a checklist, or I need to eliminate this report, or I need to create this report. These are things I can do without leadership even knowing. So it really does uh, blossom out to high all the way down to low, and each level having its sort of understanding of what it needs to address.
So you're on this podcast because obviously you've got a message, you've got skills and
Mm,
expertise that others should know about. But if you had a moment to speak to my audience or speak to a leader of an organization, again, you said 100 to 200 people
mm,
that need this to get through a transformative point in their
mm.
business, what would you say to those leaders right now if they're starting to get an uneasy feeling, and maybe tip the scale in your favor for
Yeah.
them to at least give you a call?
Yeah, so I would say, even though it seems overwhelming or intimidating or too complicated, there are ways to diagnose your cause and effect relationships and organize them in a way that's actionable. Like, do not fear, you can address this. And there are ways to create a scalable business out of your organization, but maybe it's time to stop and look at infrastructure, look at the business model for a bit, and clean some things up before we tackle that next level of growth. But again, it's always addressable. That's probably the big message here.
Yeah, I mean, you got to fix the foundation because
You do.
sometimes the better solution for efficiency, quality, et cetera, is to throw an ERP system or something that, protects you as you grow. But if the foundation is shaky and you got bad data going in, you're going to just waste a
It's
lot
just
of
a
money. So
mess.
best to bring in a professional like you to help clean up the mess at the bottom.
And the majority of ERP systems that we come across are not fitted to the business purpose very well, but they try to make the business purpose fit to the ERP system, right? And that's where many of your red clouds come from.
Hmm. Your work is very valuable, and I truly, and I'm grateful through this conversation. I get an idea of what you do because, again, as the drop in CEO, I drop into many businesses and I have an opportunity to look at the landscape and see what it is that may or may not be working. And so I'm just grateful to know you a little bit. But before I bring this show to an end a little bit, I do just want to share something with my audience, and then we're going to give you the last
Mhm.
word. Just to my listeners here, just know I sincerely care about the work that you do, but I am a resource here. And I just want to draw your attention to my website, dropinceo.com/marketplace, because I have created audio mini courses that by curating the best podcast episodes that I have, plus do it yourself guides, a small investment of $35, 3 hours of your time is well worth it to develop and master new skills. A very fraction of the point price of actually one on one coaching, but I am here to help you. But again, if you want to help improve yourself, in addition to just listening to these podcasts, go check out my audio mini courses at dropinceo.com/marketplace. But now I'm going to come back to Joe one last time because I'm so grateful to have known you and the value of your work. If you had to share a few last thoughts with our audience, because I want people to reach out to you, I'm going to give you the mic one last time.
So thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's been fun. You can reach my firm at www.businessmapping.com. And we are based in Phoenix with folks all over the country, right? Much of the work we do today is remote by the nature of the of business, and happy to help. So, Deb, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, Joe, and I'm so grateful that you dropped in on the show. I want to wish you well and continue success, and thank you again.
Thank you.